The Young and the Restless spoilers. Diane escapes kidnapping only to be framed for murder. As Jack Abbott fights for his life, The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Diane Jenkins Abbott may have escaped one nightmare only to walk straight into another, darker and more dangerous trap. After surviving a terrifying kidnapping orchestrated by Patty Williams and Dr. Lawrence Markham, Diane finally seemed to have a chance at freedom. But that freedom lasted only a few precious moments before her life was turned upside down again. Instead of being able to run home, embrace her family, and expose the people who had held her captive, Diane returned to the Abbott mansion and found a scene that could destroy everything. Jack Abbott had been stabbed, bleeding on the floor of the dining room, and the woman responsible had already found a way to twist the truth. In the chaotic aftermath, Diane did not simply become a victim who needed justice. She became the perfect target for a false accusation, one that could send her to prison for a crime she did not commit. The cruelest part is that the one person who could immediately shut down the accusation, the one person who knows Diane would not have attacked him, is Jack himself. But Jack must survive first, and that is the question hanging over Genoa City as this storyline explodes into its next dramatic chapter. For viewers, Jack's stabbing feels like the kind of tragedy that could have been avoided if only he had listened to the warnings around him. Kyle Abbott and Tracy Abbott both understood that Patty was not someone who could be treated casually or trusted simply because she appeared emotional, wounded, or desperate. They saw the danger in her instability. They knew that Jack, with all his compassion and history, was allowing himself to be drawn too close to someone who could not be trusted. Yet Jack, as he has done many times before, let his heart overrule his instincts. He believed he could manage Patty. He believed he could speak to the woman beneath the madness and perhaps calm whatever storm was rising inside her. That belief may have come from kindness, but it was also painfully naive. Why would Jack agree to be alone with Patty after everything that had happened? Why would he assume that her request for them to leave together could be handled without constant supervision? Why would he ignore the fact that Patty had already crossed lines that no one in his family could afford to dismiss? Those questions now carry terrible weight, because Jack's misplaced trust did not merely put him in an uncomfortable position. It placed him directly in the path of a knife. The Abbott mansion was never supposed to become the scene of Jack's near death. It was supposed to be the family's stronghold, the place where the Abbotts could gather, argue, protect one another, and recover from the chaos that always seems to find them. Yet Patty turned that familiar room into a battlefield of obsession, rejection, rage, and shattered illusion. When she realized that the long-running fantasy she had built in her mind was collapsing, when she saw that Jack was not going to choose her, and that Diane might still return to claim her rightful place beside him, Patty's desperation hardened into violence. In that moment, she did not see Jack as a man with his own life, his own heart, and his own family. She saw him as the center of a dream that had slipped out of her control. The man she claimed to love became the man she was willing to destroy. With a knife in her hand and fury overtaking whatever reason remained, Patty struck him, driving the blade into his side and leaving him bleeding in the dining room. It was not love. It was possession. It was punishment. It was the final collapse of a fantasy that had already harmed too many people. Meanwhile, Diane and Kyle's escape plan had been clever, risky, and born from pure desperation. Diane did not simply wait to be saved. Even while being held captive in a remote location controlled by Lawrence, she looked for weakness. She studied the routine, the food, the timing, and the way her captor trusted his own control too much. Her plan to drug Lawrence with crushed sleeping pills hidden in his meal was not glamorous or easy, but it was exactly the kind of desperate move a trapped woman would make when she knew her life depended on outthinking the person watching her. Diane understood that she had only one narrow opening. If Lawrence remained alert, she would never escape. If Patty returned too soon, the danger would multiply. If Kyle arrived at the wrong moment, he could be captured too. Every step depended on timing, courage, and a little luck. For a mother and son fighting against a carefully controlled kidnapping, that was all they had. Kyle's role in the rescue showed both his love for his mother and the danger he was willing to face for her. The place where Diane was being held was not a normal home. It was closer to a security compound, isolated and protected, with guard dogs that could have turned Kyle's rescue attempt into a disaster before it even began. Kyle's use of food as bait to distract the dogs was a smart move, but it also reminded viewers how easily this plan could have failed. One wrong sound, one wrong step, one dog that did not take the bait, and Kyle could have ended up locked away with Diane, or worse. Yet Kyle pushed forward because he knew the stakes. Diane had been taken. Jack was being manipulated. Patty and Lawrence were working together, and the truth was slipping further out of reach with every passing hour. Kyle could not wait for perfect conditions. He had to act, and in doing so, he helped create the only chance Diane had to break free. When Lawrence finally lost consciousness, Diane's prison door opened, but the emotional relief of that moment was tragically brief. Diane had survived the kidnapping, but survival did not mean safety. In soap opera fashion, her escape led not to peace, but to a devastating new cliffhanger. She and Kyle rushed back into the Abbott world, likely expecting panic, explanations, and the beginning of justice. Instead, they found Jack in a horrifying state, wounded and barely clinging to life. The image of Jack bleeding on the dining room floor would have been enough to break Diane emotionally. This was her husband, the man she had fought to return to, the man whose life had already been tangled in Patty's dangerous obsession. Diane did not come home to celebrate freedom. She came home to a scene that looked like the aftermath of murder. And because Patty had already proven she could lie, manipulate, and exploit the confusion around Diane's disappearance, the blame could be redirected almost instantly. That is what makes Diane's situation so cruel. She is the victim of a kidnapping, yet the timing of her return makes her look suspicious to anyone willing to believe the worst. She had been missing. She had been connected to conflict. She had a complicated history in Genoa City, and Diane's past has always made it easy for others to doubt her innocence, even when she is telling the truth. Patty knows this. Lawrence knows this. Anyone who wants to frame Diane understands that she does not enter a crisis with a clean reputation in the eyes of everyone around her. Diane has made mistakes. She has enemies. She has been judged many times before. That history becomes a weapon against her now. If Patty can convince the right people that Diane attacked Jack in a rage, then the truth of the kidnapping may be buried beneath a louder accusation. Diane could be seen not as a woman who escaped captivity, but as a woman who returned to finish some imagined fight with her husband. The lie is outrageous to viewers who know the truth. But within the chaos of Genoa City, outrageous lies often survive just long enough to destroy lives. The only person who can fully dismantle Patty's version of events is Jack. If Jack wakes up with a clear memory, he can say exactly what happened. He can identify Patty as the one who stabbed him. He can confirm that Diane was not present when the attack occurred. He can expose the chain of manipulation that led to this tragedy. But Jack's survival is uncertain, and even survival may not guarantee clarity. A severe attack, blood loss, trauma, and the confusion of being rushed to Genoa City Memorial Hospital could leave Jack weak, disoriented, or unable to speak right away. That gives Patty and Lawrence, if Lawrence recovers and continues to lie, precious time to shape the story before Jack can correct it. In soap storytelling, time is everything. A few hours of silence can become an arrest. A few missing details can become a confession in the eyes of the police. A victim unable to speak can become the perfect opening for a villain to write the first draft of the truth. The decision to send Jack to the hospital rather than declare him dead at the Abbott home is exactly the kind of dramatic choice that keeps viewers glued to the young and the restless. Realistically, many people might not have survived such a brutal stabbing, especially if they were left bleeding long enough to be discovered after the fact. But daytime drama asks its audience to embrace a heightened world, one where fate pauses at the edge of death and allows love, family, and unresolved conflict to pull a character back from the brink. Jack Abbott is not just any man in Genoa City. He is a pillar of the Abbott family and one of the emotional anchors of the show. His possible death would send shockwaves across the canvas, but his fight for survival creates a different kind of suspense. Viewers know that Jack may survive in miraculous fashion, especially because a character of his stature rarely exits without major real-world signals. Unless Peter Bergman were to shock fans with a public retirement announcement or confirmed departure, it feels likely that Jack will make it through. But that does not mean the aftermath will be easy. Survival can still come with consequences, and Jack's injuries may reshape the lives of everyone around him. If Jack survives but is unable to immediately remember or explain the attack, Diane's nightmare could intensify. She may be forced to defend herself while still traumatized by her kidnapping. Kyle may have to fight not only for his father's life, but for his mother's freedom. Tracy, who warned Jack about the danger, may carry guilt for not being able to prevent the disaster. The Abbott family could fracture under the pressure of fear, anger, and blame. Some may believe Diane instantly, while others may wonder whether there is more to the story. That is the kind of emotional tension The Young and the Restless thrives on. Not simply the question of who committed the crime, but the question of who believes whom, when the truth is buried beneath panic. Diane may scream that she is innocent. Kyle may insist that he rescued her from captivity. But without Jack's voice, without proof, and with Patty's manipulation spreading poison, innocence may not be enough. Patty's role in all of this is both terrifying and fascinating because she is not a villain who appears out of nowhere. Her history, her symbolism, and her unstable attachment to Jack give the story a layered sense of danger. The old saying about cats having 9 lives has always felt especially fitting for Patty. Her cat tattoo has long been a striking visual reminder of the strange, unpredictable identity she carries with her. Recently, sharp-eyed viewers also noticed the black cat pendant worn by Stacy Haiduk's character, a detail that now feels deeply ominous. At first, it may have seemed like a piece of jewelry, a small style choice, or a callback to Patty's familiar imagery. But in hindsight, it looked like a warning. The black cat became a shadow around her neck, a sign that bad luck and death were creeping closer to Jack. When Patty finally acted on her violent intent, that symbol became part of the storyline's darker texture. It suggested that the show had been preparing viewers for this turn, quietly placing signs in plain sight before the attack unfolded. Stacy Haiduk deserves real praise for the way she brings Patty to life. A character like Patty could easily become exaggerated beyond belief, but Haiduk understands how to balance theatrical madness with emotional danger. She allows viewers to see the pain, obsession, and instability inside Patty without ever asking them to excuse what Patty does. That is difficult work. Patty can be frightening, strange, manipulative, wounded, and almost childlike in her distorted longing, sometimes all within the same scene. Haiduk makes the audience watch her even when Patty's actions are horrifying. Her presence pulls focus because she plays the role with commitment and unpredictability. You never quite know whether Patty will cry, laugh, confess, lie, beg, or attack, and that uncertainty makes every scene with her feel charged. In a daytime drama, where heightened emotion is part of the art form, that kind of performance can turn a familiar villain beat into something electric. The temporary suspension of disbelief required by this version of Patty is also part of what makes the storyline work. The Young and the Restless has always existed in a world where secrets last too long, criminals get too close, memories fail at the worst possible moment, and love can be both a rescue and a weakness. In the real world, viewers might question every security failure and every missed warning sign. But in Genoa City, those flaws become the machinery of drama. Jack's trust becomes his vulnerability. Diane's escape becomes her trap. Kyle's bravery becomes only the first step in a much larger fight. Patty's madness becomes both a personal tragedy and a public threat. Lawrence's involvement expands the danger beyond one unstable woman and suggests that the kidnapping was part of a broader collaboration that has not yet been fully explained. The unanswered question of why Lawrence joined Patty, what he hoped to gain, and how deeply he is willing to protect her could fuel the next wave of revelations. What makes Diane's predicament especially compelling is that she has fought so hard to rebuild her place in the Abbott family, yet one false accusation could erase all of that progress. Diane's past has always followed her like a shadow. Even when she is sincere, others question her motives. Even when she is harmed, some people hesitate before fully seeing her as a victim. That makes her a perfect soap heroine for a wrongful accusation storyline because the audience can feel the injustice building before the characters around her catch up. Diane did not stab Jack. She was not even free when Patty's obsession reached its violent peak. But because Diane has been controversial, because she has been mistrusted before, and because Patty can exploit that doubt, the road to clearing her name will not be simple. Diane may have to prove not only where she was, but who she has become. She may have to fight the old version of herself in the minds of everyone judging her. Kyle's loyalty will be crucial. He knows what happened, because he was part of the escape. He knows Diane was imprisoned. He knows Lawrence had to be drugged for her to get out. He knows the guard dogs, the isolated location, and the danger were real. But Kyle's testimony may not be enough if the villains move quickly. Patty could claim Kyle is protecting his mother. Lawrence, if he wakes and chooses self-preservation, could deny the kidnapping or twist the facts. Evidence at the remote location could disappear. Food, pills, restraints, or signs of Diane's captivity could be cleaned up before the authorities fully understand what they are dealing with. Kyle may find himself in a race against time, trying to preserve proof before the people responsible destroy it. This gives the story a strong investigative angle. Kyle and Tracy may have to become Diane's defenders, while Jack lies unconscious, and the police focus on the wrong suspect. Tracy's position is heartbreaking, because she had warned Jack. She saw the danger and tried to make him understand that Patty could not be handled through compassion alone. Now, if Jack is fighting for his life, Tracy may be torn between grief and frustration. She may not want to blame her brother while he lies in a hospital bed, but she may also be unable to ignore the fact that his decision placed him in danger. That inner conflict could produce some of the most emotional scenes in the aftermath. Tracy loves Jack deeply, but love does not erase anger. She may be furious at Patty, suspicious of Lawrence, protective of Kyle, and emotionally conflicted about Diane, all while trying not to fall apart. The Abbott family has survived scandals, betrayals, and losses before, but seeing Jack nearly killed inside his own home could shake them in a uniquely personal way. At the center of the storm is Jack himself, silent for now, carrying the truth in a body that may not be strong enough to speak it. That is a powerful soap image. The patriarch, the lover, the brother, the father, the man everyone needs, lying between life and death while the wrong woman is blamed and the true attacker remains dangerous. If Jack wakes up quickly, the story could turn into a direct confrontation with Patty. But if Jack remains unconscious, confused, or unable to remember, Diane's legal and emotional nightmare will deepen. The longer Jack stays silent, the more powerful Patty's lie becomes. Every minute matters. Every hospital update matters. Every look between Kyle and Diane matters. The audience will be waiting not just for Jack to open his eyes, but for him to open the truth. The brilliance of this storyline lies in how it layers several kinds of danger at once. There is physical danger, because Jack may die. There is legal danger, because Diane may be framed for murder or attempted murder. There is emotional danger, because Kyle could lose one parent to death and the other to prison. There is psychological danger, because Patty's obsession has not necessarily ended with the stabbing. And there is moral danger, because people in Genoa City may choose the easy story over the true one. Diane's freedom, Jack's survival, Kyle's courage, Tracy's warnings, Lawrence's secrets, and Patty's madness have all collided in one devastating turning point. The Young and the Restless has taken a kidnapping plot and transformed it into a family crisis, a criminal cover-up, and a test of loyalty that could change the Abbotts for a long time. For now, Diane Jenkins Abbott has escaped captivity, but she has not escaped danger. Jack Abbott has been stabbed, but he has not yet been lost. Patty Williams has revealed how far she is willing to go, but her full plan may still not be exposed. Kyle Abbott has saved his mother, but saving her from prison may be an even harder fight. And as Genoa City waits for Jack to survive, wake up, and speak the truth, one thing is clear: the real battle is only beginning. Diane may have walked out of one prison, but Patty's lie could build another around her. The only way out will be truth, proof, and Jack's voice rising from the edge of death to name the woman who truly held the knife.